If I ask a question what the perfect racing game looks like, many people would probably say something like a combination of Forza graphics, a set of Corsa physics, and a Test Drive Unlimited map. But the BeamNG developers are slowly getting closer to creating the undisputably ideal racing game. And today I'll be showing you some of the insane features we could expect from BeamNG to come in future updates. Starting with BeamNG maps, they have never been exceptionally large, apart from the beloved grid map of course. The largest actual open world map in BeamNG is Italy, with 16 square kilometers, which is pretty good, but still nothing compared to Forza Horizon 5, which has 108, or even Test Drive Unlimited 2, with an unbelievable 2,116 square kilometers. Now, the reason why BeamNG doesn't have really big maps comes down to two different issues. The first of which isn't really an issue. If you look at the maps in BeamNG, you'll notice that the devs like to perfect every single little nook and cranny. And if the scale increases, so does the difficulty and time needed to create a map. The other and probably more complicated issue is the game optimization. We all know that BeamNG is a very performance-intensive game, and increasing the map size would just make it impossible to run for some computers. Right, so is there a way to add a larger map to BeamNG? Well, some of the recent updates have greatly improved the game optimization, and the career mode, which the devs have been focusing on lately, has led to the West Coast map being expanded and improved. So we could expect this map to get even larger as the career mode gets updated. There are some old mods that are decently detailed and are over 5 times the size of West Coast, so it is definitely possible, and we can hope the devs will surprise us with something similar, maybe. And the Italian map also has massive potential, and if you explore beyond the main part of the map, you can see that there are some unused islands that could be possibly a part of a future expansion. Just add a bigger city, some kind of off-road tracks, and a longer highway, and I just guarantee you I'm gonna be playing non-stop. If you look at the selection of environments we have, there's basically 2 continents to choose from. There's Europe, North America, and there's also the automation test track, which is based in New Zealand. It's pretty strange that we don't have an Asian map yet, because, I mean, initial D, like hello? And a map located in Africa would be really cool for like off-roading and stuff, and safari, I don't know. Oh, and interactive and functional props would greatly enhance the immersion of the game. And it's mainly, honestly, street lamps we need, because as we've seen with some mods, night driving is much better with more accurate lighting. Now, let me guess, why did you first install BeamNG? Well, at least in my case, it was the crashes. I remember like 5 or 6 years ago, I was addicted to watching these comparison videos, which were showing things I couldn't even imagine were possible in a game. That's until I bought BeamNG, and then of course started making these videos, which, if you're enjoying right now, consider clicking some of the buttons below it. It really helps me grow this channel and potentially bring more players to the game, so thanks so much. Anyways, back to the crashes. If we try ramming some cars against a wall, if we try ramming one car against the wall, the damage model is almost perfect. But upon a closer inspection, there is definitely some room for improvement. A feature that would make BeamNG look much more realistic is better particles. If you watch some of the real life versus BeamNG comparison videos I talked about with real life crashes, there's always much more stuff flying around. And by stuff I mean like debris and pieces from the broken parts. Now, adding this kind of debris would finally make the crashes seem like the mess they actually are, because right now BeamNG feels sort of sterile, you know? Even if you drive on the most dirty roads, the body panels remain squeaky clean with no marks or scratches, and I see a pretty good solution to this. Add marks and scratches, and overall body panel discoloration. Such as if you're driving a diesel car, the smoke should eventually make the part of the bumper which is close to the exhaust have this kind of black tint, and driving in mud, dirt and sand should correspondingly make your car dirty, which you could then like wash off in a car wash, for example. The in-game smoke particles as well as the fire are just hot garbage. It seems like BeamNG smoke has much less volume than real life, and I think actually Assetto Corsa can simulate it pretty well if you change up some settings. The fire, apart from looking unrealistic, also doesn't carry over to other things. So even if I place the hottest object on Earth, which is the Ibishu Kovet next to something, it doesn't seem to spread the fire. And again, when it stops burning, it seems like the fire didn't have any effect on the car's appearance, while in reality, this is how cars look after being burned. And here's how that could look in BeamNG. Mechanical damage could also be improved to some extent with better differential and suspension damage, as well as more detailed engine problems, such as bad injectors or misfiring. And on modern cars, there could be some other issues with the electronics as well, which if these issues added up, your car could go into limp mode, which would restrict the performance of your engine. And I also think the check engine light should come up in more cases. There's this customizable engine mod which adds tens of new parts and hundreds of new customization options. And if these parts could all realistically break, BeamNG would become a rival to another game, which in this case would be Car Mechanic Simulator. Imagine that. The last thing here is that I also feel like the cars don't overheat as soon as they should, mainly with old cars. For example, I think I drove a Kovet around the track like 30 times and it wouldn't overheat at all, which I think in the real life, if you drove a Civic around the track 30 times, it would just be dying. So I think this should be also improved. And overall, this whole damage improvement would be a nice addition to the career mode as well, where you could buy some kind of old broken car, which you could then repair and then eventually sell or drive depending on what you wanted to do with it. The AI drivers in BeamNG aren't particularly smart, we all know that, and for me who enjoys cruising with AI traffic turned on, this can get pretty annoying after a while. Especially when the AI decides to go crazy and tries to kill me at every chance they get. So we could have a lot more fun if the AI actually responded realistically. Like if I'm the crazy driver and I start honking my horn and flashing the high beams, the traffic acts like they're all deaf and blind. What they should do is pull over to the side or accelerate or just respond adequately, or will, depending on the map, get out the car and run at me with a baseball bat. And that all could depend on different personalities the AI could have. There could be a few categories divided by driver behavior. Sometimes you would encounter a newer or senior driver which could have slower responses and less reasonable actions. Then there would be the regular everyday commuter which would drive normally. And then some people would be more tempted to engage in dangerous behavior. And if you pulled up next to them at a traffic light, for example, they would kind of rev their engines and try to race you. Now, wouldn't this add a more fun twist to the game? Just imagine cruising along and then encountering a wild Pessima driver who had riced out their car and just fucking smoking them with a base model Bruckle Bastion. And with that, we could also have some kind of randomly occurring events, such as a emergency vehicle responding to an accident, or some street races, or even like a presidential motorcade, I don't know. And possibly to make the game more lively, they could add the option of pedestrians on the sidewalks, like in GTA for example. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't expect this, as this isn't really the main focus of BeamNG, right? This is just supposed to be a driving simulator. The main difference between sounds in BeamNG and real life is, for me, the fact that the real engines sound just more intimidating. That's how I would put it. And if you hear a car, you can sort of feel the power. While in BeamNG, at least some of the engines are just a bit lifeless and flat, and I'd like the noises to be more dynamic, with better induction sounds and gearbox noise, and you know, all the usual stuff the engine has. I want the engine to sound like it's alive. Overall, the BeamNG sounds are all decently accurate, but there's one thing, I'll never stop praising Hellraiser's engine mods, which just show how the engine sound simulation should really be done. These mods source the sound from real-life cars and then apply them to BeamNG, which then can sound like this, for example. But that's not the only way the audio could be improved in BeamNG. We should have more engine fault sound, which is basically what I've already mentioned, where if we had a larger variety of engine issues, the sound would change differently depending on what part of the engine was broken. Improving or adding other sounds such as wheel spin or crashing, and like even the little things such as stepping on the pedals and turning the ignition keys, that could also just add to the realism. And if you want to check out how that would change the game, I recommend watching one of my videos which shows exactly that, what BeamNG would be like with real life sounds. In the last couple of updates, the developers have been adding more interactive interiors, and with every new vehicle it seems like they add more interior features. So in the future it would be cool if every single vehicle had these functional interiors with interactive start buttons, sun visors, hazard lights, openable windows, and a cherry on top would be a working infotainment system, which has already actually been done in the Hirochi CCF2 mod. The only problem I see with like absolutely fully interactive interiors, you would probably have to have these blue boxes everywhere, which by the way they don't even work if you hide the user interface. So what I would do is just make the interactive parts like light up if you hover over them. So with all these features, BeamNG would literally become the perfect racing game or simulator ever. And it's really nice to see that the developers are going in the right direction for this game and not giving in to the horde of millions of younger players who watch content like this. And if you want more better videos than content like that, consider subscribing to me and suggesting what changes you would like in BeamNG. And of course, thank you all for watching, see you in the next video.